It's
Thrawn is great.
working.
So much Thrawn.
Kind of working.
I love Thrawn. Thrawn is great.
No, you're on. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Maude's Book Club. We are streaming again. Whatever. We have had a delightful time trying to figure all of that out. For the last week or two, we've just had plagued with errors. Catch dropping 22 subs out the gate. How do I read all these names? There's 22 of them. And so and then Darren,
I've
27
been
months.
on that for so long.
Well, now you can stand up and take a bow because 22 subs. Brush Kid got one. I bet you're in here maybe saying hi. Airwolf B got one, which is great. Kraken Bow. Occult Stool got one as well. Spudmorph, May. Drangel. KP Dubs just dropped some subs too. Cartridge Volderline. What is these words? Why would you? Evil Beard. Lost Not Found. French name. Other names. Ever Dark Green. See, I can say that. Avery, you just got gifted a sub. Get you one. How fun is that? Look, if you got gifted a sub thanks to KP Dubs or Catch22, make sure you say thank you because we're nice here. We're nice in the comments. We got a hype train happening as well. Why are you messing with my chat? Why can't I get my chat? Why you get out of here? Get out of here, she says. Let me read this chat, please. Tate says, here we go. Ed, I saw that you subscribed a little bit ago when I was doing some tech tests, so thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Toaster says the stream must flow. It's doing something. That's for sure. Something's up with my chat. Proceed. Cookies. Opt out preferences. Opt out of everything. I don't like cookies. Oh my God, all these fucking pop-ups. Hi, Adam Vision. Let's give it up for the last 3 hours of Adam's life as he helped me through tech issues. How many mods do we have in here? It is time that we add a fuck spectrum counter. Because we discovered that Spectrum had set up some sort of blocks where I think it's like they're the fun police. Were you having fun? And they just like stopped things from happening.
It's because you're trying to convince people to read and they don't want people educated.
No, because if you could read, then you could read the bill for Spectrum and you'd be outraged. Fuck Spectrum. Yes, you were right, academic. I know. Did we make that interesting at all? Did we put in like, you know, a bet on what the issue was? Because we tried a lot of things. We had 2 PCs, Wi-Fi and Ethernet, Twitch and YouTube. Like we tried a gamut, Streamlabs and OBS. Like we went through it. Look, all that to say, we're back doing Maude's Book Club. It is May. We have ambitiously decided to read 3 books this month. I will confess that I have been sick on and off for 2 weeks and went through a breakup and went through life-changing news that I'm still processing. So when I tell you that I don't know a single word that was spoken to me about this book, I couldn't tell you what happens in it, but I listened to the whole thing. So we'll go through this together and I will just ask for a little bit of help. Thrawn, I was thrown off. We'll go through this as a community to fill in the blanks and the piece. I actually really want to do a TikTok video of my impersonation of what it was like to listen to this book. And it will go a little bit like this. Where's the character names? Where are the character names? Admiral Arlati, Delius, La Kinda, Darfian, all the active, other ones that sound like this the whole time. Pew, pew, pew. And then, of course, the most important character in the entire book. And this is what he sounds like. So that was my experience of listening to Thrawn. But you know what? The good news is there's one more fucking book to get through. And we will also do that together. Now, just so it doesn't sound like I'm being a complaining little wench, who did that? It's not my birthday. It's not my birthday. It's not my birthday. It's your
But
birthday.
It was mine.
It's your birthday. This is the wrong
Yes,
way
happy
around.
birthday.
This is the wrong way around. This is the
Never.
Vaden. Oh God, you two!
Attaboy.
I'm gonna put you guys in timeout so hard. Face the wall until I tell you to turn around. Like honestly, thank you so much for those ridiculous donations that are coming in. Hopefully, it will buy me better internet.
Well, at the very least, it'll buy you an Ethernet cable.
Fuck Spectrum. Fuck Spectrum. Toaster Poster says a YouTube summary was confusing. God damn it, donation. Maybe that should be a soundbite that we could add into the Discord. That's fun. Darren says I didn't finish it. How far out were you, Darren? Were you close?
About 60%. I've been making progress. I'm going to finish it, but I'm just not. I just in a little bit of a reading slump, and this definitely wasn't one to pull me out of it. So it's been okay. Liked it better than the first one.
I think I did too, actually. More happened, maybe not necessarily in the middle, but there was kind of more happening. I just don't think that the story that they're trying to tell with bird migrations and
memories are taking me right out of it.
Right out of
it. To a place, and all of a sudden, you hit a memory, and I'm like, oh.
I absolutely.
Right, I'm going to bed.
I actually wouldn't have minded it if it was for the first book to kind of like use exposition in like a flashback. I think that that's a great way to sort of build a story. I think book 2, I just need like if we're in the spaceship, throttle up, let's tell the story. I think that we would have benefited a little bit more from that. Avery, you agree that the middle was a bit of a slump for you, but you loved the ending so much that it kind of made it worth it? She's nodding. This is what's great. You can't see her at all, and it's an audio show with an audio contribution, but I will help you out. She's just enthusiastically nodding along. What'd you give it? No, I'm asking you questions now. What'd you give it out of 5? I'm making her unmute.
I give it a 3.5. It was around a 3 for most of it, but I thought that the ending wove everything together well enough that it made up for the fact that I struggled with the middle bit there. Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah, so
3.5 overall. KP Dub says this series should have been titled the Chiss Ascendency series instead of Thrawn. I feel like you're exactly right with that. He is not sort of like it's the central figure. It really is sort of about his people, the families, the political infrastructure. Yeah, it is the Chiss. It just doesn't, I guess, have a better ring to it. But what I was going to say earlier is that there is a reason that Thrawn rhymes with yawn. Thank you. I'll be here for the next 2 hours because my internet's working. Yeah, boom tish. KP Dubs, I'd love to hear from you. You've given it a 5 out of 5. Sell me on this book.
Well, like I said about the first book when we discussed it offline, sorry everyone. I just love the way that Timothy Zahn writes strategic and military tactics scenes. I love those a lot. And I just like the fact that we're in the world of Star Wars and it's not the Skywalkers, it's somebody else. So
well, it technically is the Skywalkers.
But it is the Skywalkers.
Yeah, right. Let's forget that for a second.
It's the
Skywalkers,
not the Skywalkers.
It's other characters that we haven't been force-fed for 40 years. And so I like learning about a new culture, their hierarchies, their fears, their xenophobia, their sense of superiority, but I also just liked about how there's internal politics and even members of Thrawn's own family are trying to like take him down. And I am interested, even though I've read the third book before, it's so long ago I don't remember. So I'm interested.
That's a nice
to see,
feeling.
like if there's some sort of like progress made for like the way Skywalkers and caregivers are treated, I almost feel like something's going to happen there. And we still don't know who the real big bad guys are in the series. At the end of each of these books, we're like, it wasn't really them after all. It's something else pulling the strings behind. So
there is one thing that I got glimpse of, and I'm not sure if I were filling in the blanks, even though they weren't blanks. I just was like not there. Is Character names. Is Thalius a spy? Or they just can't manipulate her enough. But she was positioned so that they wanted to take advantage of her, but she's not gonna. I wish she was. How fucking exciting would that be? I really wish that she was a plant and that she was puppet mastering, and that would have actually been, I think, girl empowerment, like Alias, but for the other side. Like, I just said, okay, well, that's disappointing. But also I understand why, because she's got more of a role in this as well. But no, you don't think so, Academic?
I think that'd be awesome. I also think there's still room for that to be the case.
Yeah, she could get spurned.
Or she could just already be like, the first book were set up for her to find her own path, and then she's just reintroduced into like hunting down Thrawn with this overarching theme of, oh, I liked how much he set me up for his own path, and maybe she found her own path working for some enemy, just maybe some guy in a robed hood somewhere. Who knows?
I think the whole point of their relationship, though, is that Thrawn is guiding in such a meaningful way, where Chewie is feeling empowered for the first time. Like at the end of the book, where it's like she had to sort of reverse use the Force, and Thalia was like, she shouldn't do that. Don't make her do that. And she's like, no, it makes sense. I can do it. And with Thrawn's guidance, they are blossoming, and that will obviously develop loyalty. So I kind of understand that. I just want substance. Spurn, reject with disdain or contempt. It was the word I was looking for. I do have a good feeling about that. I can't just stress enough, by the way. J Mac, thank you for the follow. But Tim and Vaden, thank you. Like, seriously,
You don't have to thank me. I keep saying.
Why is my camera frozen?
Yeah, don't think I'm thanking me. I'm good. I appreciate it.
Well, every time I look at oh, for fuck's sake, this fucking. Now my Discord is is everything else streaming still? No, is it streaming? Chat, tell me if it's still streaming, because my Discord's just gone to shit. Hello? My Discord just bounced for some reason. My camera is no longer deciding to work, even though I just turned it off and plugged it back in again. Why is that happening?
Because you can't have a stream without some kind of tech issue. Might as well just leave the camera off Discord. The Twitch is the key.
Interesting. I know how to look up things now. My GPU is at 22%, which is very reasonable. It was 100% on the last computer. But
wow.
But why is my camera?
That's a lot.
Dude, I know. Why is my?
How did you ever reach 100%?
Look, if Adam spent 3 hours on it and was scratching his head, what chance did I have? You know. Come on, I just unplugged and plugged it back in. Like, oh, it just worked. Stop it. Go back. Hopefully we'll have a good 10 minutes again. Okay, great, cool. I don't know why it's so difficult. Okay, so because we have done the entire book, we're kind of getting into some of the plot points. I have crafted questions about the theme, about the characters. We can go through all of those as well, but I do want to go around and hear what everyone scored out of 5. KPW has given it a 5. Avery gave it a 3.5. I believe, Vaden, you gave it a 2.5.
Yep.
That was less than the other one.
Yeah, I had 3 last time. Like, even though I'm not a huge fan of Thrawn as a character, like, the other characters that brought in weren't particularly notable, memorable to me. Like, and I found, like, the Chiss couple, Yomi and Yovapinek, to be really kind of annoying to me.
Okay, who are they? Who are they again? I can't just do names. I need to have a little context around them.
So there's two this young couple, young Chiss couple that Haplif recruited essentially to like go with them on this journey.
Oh yeah, and he killed her. He killed her. He like airlocked her out. Okay, so they had. Who did you listen to the book?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so she was a Valley girl and he was a Cali bro.
Yes.
Yeah.
they were so
KP
clueless. It
Dubs!
was crazy.
Stop it!
Like I couldn't believe it because like I just understood how naive they were. Like I mean, at least she was smarter than more savvy than him. But like it's just like
They made her sound like
hey,
such an airhead.
yeah. Like if you look at in the document, I posted my thoughts on them. It's like they seem like they're like basically it was like Happily was like the bad guy in the white van giving them candy, and they're like, okay, we'll just gonna take it without thinking about it at all, really consequences. I mean, yeah, she had to do some convincing, but like still, they're giving them nothing, and they're getting like all this free stuff, and they're just okay with that. Like, okay, sure, we'll just go with you on your ship.
Hold on,
no
really
help
quickly.
and no...
I'm in the Google Doc. I can't see your notes in here. I wonder if there was a little kerfuffle in it because this is book 2, and I've just reposted the link for you in show chat. I don't know if it's easy to like copy and paste.
Yeah, I'll put a copy. It's in the thoughts section, but I'll put it here.
Why? Where? I don't have a thoughts section in my document.
That's weird because I see Vaden stuff in the doc.
Are you looking at the other one?
Yeah, can you link me the one that you're in? I don't
Sure.
know what's going on.
I'm posting it in show chat.
Lovely. Are they different docs?
Be the same.
I don't have any.
Oh no, yours different.
Mine's
Why?
different. Yeah.
Yeah, yours.
Oh,
has
because one's titled Greater Good and one's titled Book 2, full book.
Okay, yeah, because I copied from the original from the. I copied the link from the what's called the
All right.
when we first started putting these documents out, and this new one that came out, I didn't know about this new one. I knew you posted about it, but
I will
they
copy
had different
it.
format.
I will copy it unless we just want to go through. X. All right, this one's dead. Delete. Delta. Delta. Oh, you've already put that in. Oh, I already copied that. Okay, great. Oh, we've got a lot of the same information. That's cute. All right, I'm just gonna. Why can't I can't copy and paste it over. Why not? Oh, why not? Cut. Paste. Great. There it is. So you already wrote that. Let me get rid of it. Sorry, everyone. I know you can't see what's happening here. We've already got the Chiss characters in here. We don't need that again. Boop. I've got my questions. Fantastic. Who else wants to tell me what they gave it out of 5? Actually, Steph, I saw you were in Goodreads writing notes for it, and it was actually quite helpful for me. I would read all your notes and be like, oh, that's a good insight. Oh, maybe what is his deal? And when I say he, I mean Thurfian. Who sounds like this when he talks. I can differentiate by like the accent. I got the names. And Colleen said this, so I'm going to speak on her behalf as well. The names really bogged me down. The names were really, really hard for me. You're telling me that there is a guy in a fictional universe called Luke Skywalker, and even though they're Chiss, we can't get a Ken, we can't get a Sam, we can't, you know what I mean? I don't even care if you want to spice it up a little bit, like Kevy, great, but like, does everything have to be Mufuansi or Throno Belagiri? And I'm just like, who is this Welcome to Star Wars book, says Jeff. Jeff, where are you? Where are you? Toast Poster says...
$10 says he's at a bar.
Are you at a bar, Jeff? Toast Poster says 2.5 out of 5 is my experience with the book, not what I think of the book. Oh, I love that. It's the experience you had with the book. Usually, I can watch books in my head like a movie. Oh my God, Toast Poster, this is what I'm going through as well. But this was like a huge stage... Oh, sorry. This was like a stage play with the narrator center stage and frozen actors behind him. I agree completely. I really struggle to see a sort of cinematic presence. You know how like there are some books where you see it play out, you watch things happen. And I will say like that would happen in the action sequences when we covered Fond du Lai's Jade City. I could kind of see the action as it was happening. There was like a play-by-play, but this feels one step removed from that. And so I'm witnessing someone talking about it. So everything's like secondhand experience. And I have the exact problem. Ken, you say you love the fleet battles and the naval, the air fleet battles, and you can visualize them, and I cannot. They start happening and it's like blaring and it's noise and it's this, and I can't actually picture what's going on. So when there was like the pressure of the beam is going to, I'm like, what? I don't.
So can I ask a follow-up to that? So in the audiobook, there's like sound effects and stuff. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and they'll like use.
Okay. Let me ask
music
another
to
question.
support.
When the author would write on the page, she said angrily, "Put that down." Does the narrator in the audiobook say, "He said angrily, put that down," or does the narrator just go?
Okay, so
"Put that down"?
great question. If it is a graphic audio production, they will remove all of the she says, he says, and they will act it out. When it is a straight up book narration, so for Audible, or if it's like just one narrator doing the book, they keep all of that in. In saying that though, and I can't believe I'm saying this, I thought Sarah J. Maas did a good job in like ACOTAR and in those, not as much the action sequences, but every sentence she placed the person in the room with the demeanor or the attitude that they had, with the correlation of every other person in the room. So when the she says, he says, or like, when the explanation happened, I could tell you what color the wood finish was on the fireplace in the sitting room. Like, it was so built out for me. And even like the patches, I could fill them in. And I remember we had a really great discussion with Matt Dinnerman about that, where he's like, you've got, every time you're doing something, you kind of got to play on at least 3 of the senses. What does it look like, smell like, feel like, all those sorts of things. And you don't have to mention everything, but you need to build enough so that we can extrapolate and then build that character. So if it's like he had a bulbous nose or ruddy features, we can kind of put together this character. If he was old and gruff, you say enough to fill it in. And I'm not sure what this is missing. I am really struggling with that visualization, or even room placement, or how characters sort of feel and connect with each other. There's just so many layers of a disconnect where I'm just on the outside looking in and it's foggy glass. Who else was having that with this book, if anyone? I could be on my own here. Academic, you were, Lisa, you were. Now we were both listening to it, weren't we?
Yes, but actually, weirdly enough, even though I complain about the narration, that was not my contention with this book. I think it was more story for me. I thought the narrator, with the exception of Thrawn, does a phenomenal job with emoting, with producing that. Like I
very
am
distinct
able
characters
to recreate the scene. Yeah, extremely. That's why I was surprised. I was impressed with your very faithful renditions of the different characters in this book. That was phenomenal. But that's also a testament to how good the narrator was at, like, I could not. I'm with you with the names. I could not remember exactly what name went with what character, but by voice alone, I was able to place who was in the room, which was so. Yes. Narration, I thought, was actually quite good for this book.
I struggled a little bit with. It was almost infantilizing some of the moments where it was. I just felt like I was a preschooler and he was teaching me. And this is what the chiss are like. Did you know that this is what happens? And you kind of be like, I'm a grown-ass woman. You're talking to me like... So that kind of... He didn't talk to me like we're on the same level. So he's talking at me, not with me. And I struggled with that a little bit as well. And I also noticed in the writing that sort of supported it as well. Like, you weren't being told A and C and figuring out B. You were told A and B, B and C, and then a recap of A, B, and C. So like there was, and I still got lost. But I do believe that there was an over-explanation as well. You had another point to make about the narration. You said that the story was what was lacking for you.
Yes, I think it's story and plot, more so than the narration that made me feel like I was in a haze. Part of it is just construction of like leaping back and forward to completely different points in time. That was, and then the trying to keep up with exactly where we are by name alone was kind of difficult. Like I'm able to piece it all together by the end of the story. I think that was pretty well brought together at the end, but the whole middle area was having me struggle to get through it in a way that the first book didn't actually do. Like I was able to sort of do the memories and I was able to like sort of follow, okay, we're definitely back here in time, but we're progressing slowly forward. With this one, I don't know. It was much harder.
Is it fair to say if we're using a line graph, the first book was sort of this. You got information and it progressed the story and this one was okay.
It was wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey.
Nice. Vaden referenced the fact that I was like 2/3 of the way through the book and I'm like, I can't picture anything. I'm a visual learner. The names aren't sticking. I can't picture what they look like. So I look up, usually when this happens, if I'm not connecting with a character and they are just a blob to me, I will look up fan art. And I'm like, how did someone else picture this person? Like, it's like almost like cheat sheet. Like, why don't you just tell me what this person looks like? And I posted the art. And Vaden, you said that even that didn't help. So you struggled picturing the Chiss characters so much so that a visual aid still wasn't enough. KPW says the fan art was so wrong, they didn't look like that at all. Okay. I don't even know.
For one thing, every single one of them looks male, and half of the characters in that fan art are female, and one's a kid, and all 8 of them look the same except for like hairdo and their clothes.
Some of the women also sounded like men, to be fair, in the audiobook narration. Because it'd be like, da, she said. I'm like, what? She did? If you say so. Any other thoughts about how the story was shared to us? How did you rate the visualization aspect of this? Who's got thought? Lisa, yeah.
Well, I think that's probably what I'm giving it like a 3.5 again. I think my whole issue with it was the whole middle part, like they said, I like zoned out and probably I didn't feel like I was retaining anything. Like once they wove everything together at the end, I feel like I was like, okay, that makes sense. But like going through it, I was just like, what is this story even about? Like I was so just over it and didn't care what was happening and all the memories and stuff. But I feel like he did pull it together in the end, and it was a very interesting last fourth of the book. But just the way it was narrated and the way with it jumping back and forth in time, it was very hard to just stay in the story.
Yeah, I agree. K Frito's throwing me under the bus a little bit when I did my impersonation, and he said, at what speed did she say that? I was listening to it at 1.9. 1.9. So quite fast. Avery says the narration definitely felt removed from the actual story. Yeah, like it was a report in a way. This is the report of what happened, and it's by the book. No, it is a book. Occult says, I could picture the naval battle movements well and the farmer fight well. Oh, no. There was a farmer fight?
Hapleaf and the other Lacris or whatever his name is. There's too many L names in this book.
I think I do remember Pew Pews happening. The way that KP Dub's eyes rolled back into his head. You might have to try and get them just all the way around to come back. Snores says, the series isn't an action-adventure story. It's a cultural and political and psychological study. If this was done in David Attenborough's voice, that could have been more interesting. Toaster Post says, yes, farmers? Yes, I do know that. They were pretending to be a nomadic species, but they were actually colonizers, and they were taking over a farm to create spice, to harvest spice or something for a little bit. And this alien species were, what is the telepathic? Nope, they psychic.
Like buoy.
The Agbui. Oh my god. What's the other enemy, guys? Bagwan. Nope. What are they called?
There's like 3 different aliens, right?
They're like the big bad all the way through this. They're the ones that constructed the asteroid.
Nicodrun, something
Yes.
like that.
Nicardoon. That's the ones. The Nicardoons and the Agbuis.
Were they in this?
The Nicardoon are the constant throughout, aren't they not?
Yeah, they're in the first book too.
And the Agbui took over the mages. Do the mages have a title yet? Do we know what they're called?
Yes, but they do have one. I don't remember what it is. There's 2 aliens, right? When we met the Magus' aliens,
Yes.
they were the ones that were sheltering the Magus.
We don't know their true name. She just calls them something like the people or
The
my
people.
people.
Yeah. Well, they were being
We don't know
cagey
their-
about that. Also, can someone find or show me to where Seb in the chat somewhere? I thought it was in feedback or show chat, and it's neither, or members chat. Agbui. He has shown me how it's a me problem. Apparently, I have protect personal data on here. So when some people talk, it just shows the first letter of their name, and that's what's coming up in the browser source. And apparently, if I press user setting and something, I could help with that.
Yeah, it's in feedback. In Discord, you go to user settings,
Data and privacy,
and then you go. And they do streamer mode.
Streamer mode. Yep.
And then you disable the option, which is called hide personal information.
Boom.
So you just turn that off.
Great. Yay! Look at that. Good times. Fun. We love that.
Yay.
Did my camera pause at the worst frame? What do you think? Let's screen cap that immediately. It looks like I'm sneezing, or we need to show chat. I mean, if it's going to ruin my day, I may as well go down swinging. But if you're a member, I've posted it still. Fuck off. What is wrong with you, camera? What do I need to do? Oh no. And now of course my Discord's gone to shit because I tried to restart the camera. You don't get a camera now. Nope. I've got to exit the call and jump back in. Oh, jeez. Jeez Louise. Yep, my Discord's down. Okay, you're back. What's up? Yeah, we just don't have a camera. That's fine. Sorry, guys. Lisa says, I do agree too that this series shouldn't be called Thrawn Ascendency. It would make more sense as the Chiss Ascendency. I feel like Thrawn was barely in this book other than people talking about him behind his back. Avery says they literally mentioned Thrawn's name like it was a cameo. I'm just gonna. Let's see if this works. Of course it's not. Nope. Worth a shot. Worth a shot. Who didn't get in their score? Jeff gave it a 4.5, and I'd love to learn more about that. Steph, what did you give this one out of 5?
I'm at a 3, but I'm still like 60% in, so.
All right. Well, I would be worried that I'm about to spoil for you, but what I actually think going through the plot might be helpful and guide you there. So where's my plot gone? Here we go. Part 1 of the book. So basically, Thrawn and the 7th Fleet return home to the Ascendency after their previous victory. Political tension brews as Thrawn's actions continue to disrupt the careful balance of the 9 ruling families. Now, I believe it was it Bartleby or was it... I think it was Bartleby, compared these houses to the Drizzt du Erden series, where it's like the warring houses, the political sort of backstabbing, fight for power, blah, blah, blah. So yes, I'm understanding that better now because of that comparison. The mysterious Kilji? That can't be it. What is... Kilji Illumine? I've never heard that before in my life. That's what I'm reading it though. The cult.
Neither have I. Is that the right Thrawn trilogy that you got a description of? Because I don't understand any of that stuff that's in your document.
Really?
I mean, some of it, I guess.
I don't.
Oh, I do. I think I know what that is, and I think it's book 3 spoilers.
Delete.
Nope, no, never saw it.
So what? Oh, actually, it will help me. I did that at one stage. I was like trying to do a chapter summary so I could read what the summary was before I listened to the book, so I could like hit the beats a little bit better. There is 2 Thrawn trilogies. There are. The
I was
only,
confused because I was like,
I mean, maybe that's why I was like reading it and I'm like, oh man, I missed a lot. I really
confused.
tuned out. I have no idea what's happening in this book. That makes perfect sense. That's so funny. Now everyone's flocked to the dock. Oh, now you like homework, huh? You're checking it out. All right, let's look up a summary. What is it? Great or good?
I tried finding one, but like the only summary I could find was not a summary. It's like, here's like what actually happens in each chapter, and it's very long. It's like you might as well read half the book anyways. I don't know why it's so long, but that's why I put it in the document. But as a link because it's just too long.
Okay, here we go.
Basically, there's a group of aliens who we don't know nothing about. All we know is this guy named Jixtus, who's always wearing a hood and a cloak, and even the people who he has as minions are scared of him but don't really know what he is. He's pulling strings, so he's got this.
So he's
guy,
like a Sidious.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Haplif is good at like inciting civil wars, like undermine civilizations and species. So he's been tasked to start a civil war amongst the Chiss.
Yep.
And that's why he's insinuating himself into this little planet Selwis.
So why the brooch?
People...
What's the brooch bullshit? Sorry, story.
So the brooch is part of his plan. It's created with a very, very rare and valuable metal that all the people in this part of space use as the armor plating in the hulls of their starships. So it's worth like thousands of times more than like what gold or diamond would be. But he's playing it off as it's all this worthless little metal that we make jewelry out of on our planet. Here, I'm going to gift it to you. But his plan is that he knows the Chiss will recognize it for what it is, and their greed and lust for family power will cause several of these lower families to start a civil war in the whole empire.
Over the metals.
Over the metal. So they've created this fake planet with a fake mine. The objective is to draw in, they've done this to several planets, and they're all going to send their different families of the Chiss with their own family fleets. And when they all start a civil war, this outside force run by Jixtus will have an easier chance of taking over the Chiss.
And La Quinta, who is a character I really like, did not answer the call of the family and so then got demoted.
No, she did at first. She's the captain of one of the high level ships, along with Thrawn and Arlani.
Mm-hmm.
So she finds out from one of her like low level junior lieutenants that he's got to go home because there's a family call for help, and she checks her messages and goes, "Oh crap, I got that too. We'll go together." So she ends up being in command of the Zodlak family's little personal force.
Got it.
But she defies the family order to like ignore all communications, and instead she listens to her first officer, who's with Thrawn, and is like, "Hey, you're falling for a trap. If you go there, you're going to fight and start a civil war.
Right.
We have to stop it. So here's our plan." And that's why her family hates her at the end, because she was not originally with the family like Thrawn. She was adopted from outside. And so she doesn't have high standing already, and now she's disobeyed the order, so they hate her at the end.
Right. I really like her. I like her as a character. I like Mikadoon. Nope. Character names. Wait. Oh, so Macro. It sounds like in my head his name was Sir Macro. And I liked it like that. So Mr. Macro, who is kind of like what's the actor, Sam, the older Southern gentleman who usually has a handlebar mustache. What's his name?
Elliot.
Yes.
Sam Elliott.
So Macro is Sam Elliott in my head. Kay Freya says, that's not his name. That's Dr. Macro. Thank you. So Macro. The Jack Nicholson type character. Yeah, the one who talks like this. Yeah. So Macro. Scooby Doob's in the house. Scooby Doob is I think it's you, a new member of Maude's Book Club. You can check out the doc that we have, which I got all wrong, in the show chat as well. I thought that Sand Macro narrations sound like, so macro. Lakinda, so I thought Lakinda was like La Quinta, the hotel chain. Is there, yeah. La Quinta. Thalius was my favorite in the first book, and La Quinta was my favorite in this one, says Avery. Yeah, I kind of like that. I feel like that as well. I'm going through the chat here. Everyone's just trying to help me out, organize it. Okay, so how's this for a summary? Tell me if it's any good. After the events of Chaos Rising, Thrawn and the Chiss expansionary defense fleet have repelled a major threat from the Chaos, the uncharted regions beyond the known galaxy. But peace is fleeting. Does this sound right? So far, so good. A new, more insidious danger emerges, the mysterious alien force known as the Nicardoon Destiny, led by the charismatic and cunning General Yiv, the Benevolent. They bested him in the first book.
Mm-hmm.
However, Thrawn begins to suspect that Yiv is just a pawn in a much larger game. As Thrawn investigates deeper, he uncovers a shadowy manipulator working behind the scenes, a group known as the Beyond, including a schemer called Jixtus, a being from outside the Ascendency who is quietly sowing discord among the Chiss and their neighboring civilizations. At the same time, political tensions grow within the Chiss Ascendency itself. Thrawn's unconventional tactics and growing reputation make him a divisive figure, even among his own family, the Myth. Rival families and internal factions begin to question whether Thrawn's loyalty lies with the Ascendency or with his own ambitions. Thrawn, ever the tactician, must navigate deadly space battles, political intrigue, the growing threat of the Beyond, and the delicate balance of family loyalty versus military necessity. Okay. Let's see if we can find some book club questions, because I don't know. Okay, great. We've got some. Thank you, internet. How does Thrawn's tactical brilliance both benefit and complicate his position within the Chiss Ascendency? And it says here to consider how his victories affect his relationships with his peers and the ruling families. Ken.
I mean, he basically wins everything, so it's kind of like, well, the way it works is that basically that people get distrustful of him because even though he wins at everything and doesn't ever make mistakes, it seems like he does it in a way that basically makes people angry. So like his end results are great. His process frustrates people because the Chiss Ascendency seems to be very based on like law and order. Like they have a certain way of doing things. And once you get out of that, when you do things differently and out of the appropriate structure, they get very angry with you essentially. And so even if the results are actually really good, so he takes a lot of risks, and a lot of people don't like that, except for the patriarch, who likes him specifically because he takes risks and is willing to take the Chiss in places that the other people will not.
But hold on, at the end of the book, it was, one moment please, Thurthian has been made, he got promoted to Patriarch?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think Cynic Prime, I believe, is his title.
Okay, so let's go through the titles. This is something that
at the end he gets promoted to Patriarch.
Yeah.
Yep.
He is climbing those ranks.
Inside the family.
So KP Dubs has put this together. Let's go through. Also, I just saw KP Dubs, I really like this book. I am loving this series. Boy, I can't say enough good things about this book. Thank you, KP Dubs. This endorsement brought to you by...
I'm going to expand on what Vaden was just saying.
Yes.
Why like the military loves Thrawn and the civilians seem to hate him. As a culture, they have a really strong, almost like a Federation Prime Directive prime directive kind of thing. They do not attack first.
Yes.
They try
I
to have
liked
this
those
very
moments.
strong-
He
Yes.
would, you know, they fire at 10%, they purposely miss. So, yeah, no, I thought that was all interesting.
But Thrawn is so strategically and tactically ahead of almost everyone else that he knows when somebody is going to attack. And he's like, they might best us, but if I get in the first shot, I can beat them. But that goes against everything the Chiss believe. And so they're afraid he's going to get them involved in a war they don't want. But he knows the war is going to happen no matter what, and he feels they should get the first shot. So right now, his challenges are to skirt the rules as close as he can without crossing the line, firing low-level lasers, getting allies to pretend to be enemies so it looks like they shot first, that kind of thing. And so that's how he's getting around it. But that's why his own family, Thurfion, eats his guts, because he's like, no, you're firing first. You're bad. You're going to like bring shame to the myth, and we might drop from the 9 ruling families.
Technicalities don't make you likable. And I think that's what he's experiencing. When you look at reality television, especially in the form of competition, Survivor, if someone goes out really strong and they win every single challenge, what's the first thing that happens to them? They get voted out. They get kicked. They're booted because they're too much of a threat. There is an art form in a competitive environment like that, unless it's like straight up like a marathon or, you know, first, second, and third placings in a race. But when it's like this reality competition, the art form is the fine line between being non-threatening and flying enough under the radar and remaining likable and building loyalty in others, which can only really be done through manipulation. And I say this with love because a friend of mine in Australia won Big Brother twice. And to win Big Brother, you need to play the game. And you need to be the only person who knows that you're playing the game. And watching him on that show was almost like a masterclass, because what he's saying to one person and what he's saying to another person are similar enough, but he nudges sort of like their direction on how to think about it. So he's in charge of everything at all times. So when it comes to casting the votes, he knows who everyone's voting for and he's spinning it in his favor. And that's sort of like the political side of this that Thrawn can't grasp. And I think that, you know, I just said that that's an art form. So I do kind of, you know, to play on what you were saying, Avery, which is the whole art is politics. That art form is emotional manipulation. What Thrawn does really well is play by the rules. Enough. He finds loopholes, he can somewhat exploit it, but on paper, he's done it by the book. Your argument, Avery, which I do think is really interesting, is when you are an expert in art and culture, it doesn't make sense that you cannot grasp politics. And this is the conversation that's taking place in the chat right now. Vanessa, who I got to meet last week, said, speaking of the Prime Directive, Thrawn is so similar to Spock, but I feel like Thrawn doesn't evolve as Spock does, which is a conversation that you were having in KP Dubs, with KP Dubs, sorry, which I think is this whole thing between understanding sculpture has no sharp edges, so the people will sort of go around things instead of attacking head on. So it's using a literal understanding of these things again. I know that the feedback that you had, Avery, and the frustration that you had was there's so much talk and emphasis on Thrawn not understanding or being good at politics, and yet we do not have really a single great example of him not being good at it or failing at it. This is a problem for me. We saw the opposite of this and the only example that's coming up that I think that we are all sort of privy to or can understand is fucking Fourth Wing. Violet Sorrengail gets picked by the biggest, baddest dragon because she's so smart. Everyone keeps talking about how this character is so smart. This book is written first person. We never witness a smart moment from her. We are not privy to the brilliance that she apparently possesses. When you keep harping on about a character trait and supporting no evidence of this in the narrative, you are all talk, and that will consciously or subconsciously have the reader disconnect through distrust. Is that landing?
Kind of, but to be fair, she did the whole poison thing, which was clever, but I don't know.
Oh, and that was my favorite part of the book. But that was halfway through book 3.
Well,
that was halfway through book
poison-
3. She had the
first
smartest dragon for 2.5 books.
Well, no, that
No,
was
she did the poison thing. In
I
the
thought you
first
meant
book
I
when
thought
she
you
was
meant the
fighting.
challenge. Yes. So she was a scribe and she'd learnt about different poisons, and so she basically negatively affected all of her oppositions. But that was one thing done 10 times, which
Sure.
I would argue stops being smart, because she nearly got caught because she stopped being subtle, which means not clever, which means...
Yeah, at that point, it's more like her not being so smart and them being more foolish. At that point, like, hey, maybe someone should have figured this out by now. But
I mean, there were so many flaws with the first book as well. We picked that one apart, deliciously so, where it's like, wait, you're trying to establish and build an army, but you're trying to kill everyone any chance that you can get.
yeah, that was extremely ridiculous. I think all of us complained about that because it didn't make any sense.
Didn't make any sense. Make it make sense. Drink. Lisa says she was book smart. Just because you carry a book does not mean you're learning from it and applying it. And also there'd be like things where we, the reader, never found out how she got from A to B. She's like, oh, by the way, I think it's this. Oh, I'm right. Cool. And you're like, how? When did you learn that? How do you know this? You just happen to know it? Plot hole. Anyway, Avery says at least Feyre in Akatar's defining trait was that she was kind, which is proven repeatedly to a fault. I just keep picturing all the artwork where she's like in denial, like everyone tells her she's such a good painting and they're really bad. It's like these finger paintings. Sorry. Baden, your hand's up. Oh, have fun at your D&D game, Occult. That sounds fun. Tell me about your character next time if you already haven't. I think you have, actually. Sorry, Baden.
All right, so just yeah, I just what I was going to mention was before the fourth wing tangent was you're talking about it was Thrawn.
Yes.
Why people love when there's people like Thrawn. So Thrawn wins everything. That's great. But like I think to be fair, like he's very he's genius tactics and battle strategy and all this stuff. But like I think some of his superiors get frustrated with him because he's not really much. He sees like how to win whatever he needs to do to accomplish his task, but there's like a larger picture he's not really seeing. I think that's supposed to be the politics. Him being weak. It's like he doesn't see like the larger picture, and they're like, okay, that's why they're frustrated with him. That's why they're scared. Like Ken mentioned, like if he's attacking people, if people find out the Chiss are attacking people, and they're not being attacked first, then they can draw them into a whole war, and there's all sorts of much larger issues that can occur that are much more dangerous than just winning one battle. So I guess it's more fair than I initially thought about him, about his weakness.
Okay. I like what Jeff said. Get out of it. Get out. I can't. What is happening now? Computer. Get out. Something's popped up and it's in the way of everything and I can't. I like what Jeff said. I think Thrawn just doesn't value politics. He views that sphere as being not useful. Thrawn just gets shit done. Politics, it just doesn't feel like it's just... Oh, yes, and Snores says to you, Vaden, completely disagree. I think he sees the bigger picture and they don't.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, I don't think the book does a good job of portraying it, but I think that's the idea. That's what the idea is supposed to be. He's not seeing the big picture, but it's not shown well at all. Like, he needs more failures. He needs real failures that actually have big consequences that do terrible things to other people in the Ascendency. But yeah, and that's the way that I think would be portrayed best. But it didn't happen.
I mean, the fact that we're arguing about it means that there wasn't a strong enough example. We've got lots of hands up. Tim, we're going to go. Hello. Hi, Vanessa. Tim, we're going to go to you, and then Ken, and then Academic.
And I was just going to say, and I think I said this last time, but the reason that a lot of the politicos don't like Thrawn is because everything he does flies into the face of the cultural history of non-intervention.
Cultural history of yeah.
I mean, their whole history is built around non-intervention and isolationism, and everything Thrawn does flies in the face of that. And that's why they dislike him.
Got it.
Also, this book is boring.
Okay, there it is. Great.
And it might just be me, but I'm only 100 pages in, and I'm bored as shit.
Well, KP Dubs.
I hate that because I like Star Wars.
KP Dubs' hand was up, so maybe this could help with it. What were you going to say?
Well, him hating this, and I know he's read the books from the 90s, may throw my whole theory out the window. But in those 90s books, they do address a lot more of how he uses art to define what he knows about species or tactics. Like there'll be chapters where he's talking about like he's got his captain and he's like, okay, you see this sculpture? Do you see how like everybody is facing this one way? That means when one person moves, this whole species goes that way. Or how this other piece of art, it shows how they are overconfident, or how this, and he gets into a lot of detail there. I think because those books have been around and were so popular for so long, Timothy Zahn's like, I don't need to put that in this book. I don't need to explain why art works for him because my readers are going to know that.
That's that's presumptuous, isn't it?
And it is. And if you haven't read those books or don't remember them, I do think you lose something in these books. And I've had something else, but I can't remember it now, so that's fine.
I actually want to know from you, going back to when we were saying visualizing, whether it's characters, placement in a room, objective, all of that. Were Timothy's earlier books better about that? Because I don't remember having this issue in the 2017 Thrawn book.
I haven't read the 2017 ones, but I am pretty good at visualizing. Like when I'm reading these chapters, I'm basically watching a scene from Star Wars in my head. I place Star Destroyer analogs in my mind for the Chiss ships and some sort of other alien type vessel as the others. I see the fighters buzzing around when they're like, they came in on the port side and they did a starboard yaw. I am picturing that in my head. And so again, maybe because I see things that way and I know not everybody can visualize in their head the same way, maybe it's making me a lot more like excited about these.
I agree. Also,
I don't know.
I was trying to figure out the biggest difference between when I first stumbled into Thrawn and now. I read that book. So I do think there is a discrepancy with reading it and listening to it. Tim, your hand's up. And then Academic, I know you had your hand up earlier if you want to. Great.
I was just going to say, the original like 90s Thrawn books, I didn't have a problem visualizing. But I think part of that is because courtesy of the movies, most of the characters I kind of knew what they looked like, right? And you could put an analog in for like Palian and that, because you're like, okay, so he's an Imperial Admiral, you know what that looks like. These books, I have a much harder time. Like I kind of have a general idea of what Thrawn looks like and a general idea of like some of the other characters, but like the spaceships are blank to me. I have no frame of reference of like one culture ships versus another culture ships. They're all just generic spaceship here.
Yep.
And then a lot of the Chiss and like the fan art that you posted, I was like, these could be clones with micro evolutions. They all look the same to me. The only characters that I think stand out to me visually would be Thrawn, Thalius, and Cherie.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else is kind of just insert blue humanoid.
Yeah, okay. And the fact that it's not only happening with characters, but also settings. Like we should feel at home in this ship. We should know what it looks and feels like. We should, and the book does a good job with sound effects. So you can kind of hear the blips and atmospherically you kind of get it. I will say a lot of the time, anytime you're in a ship, a hum will happen. So you're understanding that you're in a vessel, but you hear this hum. There are other times where it would have a background noise that upsettingly took away from it because it was just like a whoom, whoom, whoom. And when you're trying to listen to dialogue happening with this whoom happening at the same time, you just kind of like, shush, like what kind of audio design is this? It's not helping the story. Scooby-Doob, I just saw that Vaden gifted you a sub, which is so lovely. Welcome to your new set of emojis for Moore's Book Club. Vanessa, now that we've got you in here, I'd love to hear your thoughts. How did you enjoy the second book compared with the first book? Are you able to visualize it? Do you like Thrawn as a character? Give me the spiel. Oh,
I did love meeting all of you last week. Oh, sorry.
no, you're good. It's just had a little delay. I got you now.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I was on the struggle bus with this book.
Mhm.
And I love Star Wars, and I don't think that there's a great story, which I think you guys touched on. So, and I think for me also, I struggle because when you look at all the different shows that Thrawn has been in versus the books, it's like completely different characters. And I'm sort of like, can't they like pick a lane, so to speak?
Mm.
So I really struggle with that. I cannot process the battle stuff. I absolutely, my mind just,
Not present.
It's bad.
Yep. I found that thankfully with Ahsoka and with Rebels, because I have an animated version of Thrawn and a live action version of Thrawn, he was someone that I could emulate. And the fact that even though it was very softly spoken, the narrator did a really good job honoring what Thrawn, like how Thrawn has been shown on screen in animation and in real live action. So that was easier for me to visualize, having that support of different mediums that have existed. I needed way more help though. Everyone's just Avery says a bunch of my friends are re-entering their Star Wars era thanks to Andor, so I keep recommending Bloodline to them. I still like Lost Stars as my favorite. Wolfen says, is that the Stormlight Archives I see on your shelf? It sure is. We have covered the first 2 books for Maude's Book Club, and we'll probably likely get stuck into Oathbringer. Good segue into Catcher's comment saying, Brandon Sanderson over-explained, and I'm paraphrasing, the shit out of everything. Timothy Zahn didn't explain anything at all. We need a happy medium. And the fact that I'm saying that that's Sarah J. Maas is really saying something today, folks. But I mean, I can picture it, maybe because it's like the 4th time I've read them as well, but I can picture it perfectly. Wolfen says, yes, Stormlight Sanderson rocks my socks. We're doing a full book club in terms of having discussions and opinions about the book. Neat stuff. Wolfen, it sounds like you're very new here. Thank you so much for the follow a little earlier. Yes, I run a sci-fi fantasy online book club. We will often do a main book and a bonus book every single month that will be chosen ahead of time. We have a Discord that is free to join, and you'll find schedules there. You'll get links to these streams so you're across it all. And there's also a lot of conversations and chats, not only about sci-fi and fantasy series, like the Stormlight Archives, a 24-hour chat there to talk about that to your heart's content. But there's also ways to talk about how many books you've read and reading challenges. So definitely join the Discord if you haven't already. This month we tried something different, and that was reading an entire trilogy throughout the month of May. And we've had a few little hiccups. Some my fault, some not. But we're getting through 3 Thrawn books. Hey, I said that without fumbling. Yeah, that feels like it's a little tongue twister. 3 Thrawn books. Still not as hard as See, can't do it. Sith pussy. Still one of the hardest tongue twisters. 2 somewhat innocent words. 1 very difficult attempt. Thank you. If you just can't say it 3 times. Can't say it 3 times. Don't ask me how I figured it out. Just know the fact that I've discovered the world's toughest tongue twister. Don't you dare, academic. Don't you dare. Didn't you just say Thrumba books? Probably. I think Martha Wells is a good example as well. I could visualize Murderbot so well, and these books are all under 200 pages. I sometimes struggled a little bit with the supporting characters. The name, I think, did a good job. Like if you have someone called Garatha, you're like, cool, I've kind of got sort of like an understanding of the region where they're from because the name is culturally sort of on point. It's not like Jack, where Jack could be anything. My brother's name is Jack. The fact that Murderbot itself was genderless, and yet a lot of us could distinctly, clearly picture Murderbot is a real testament as well, because she provided an essence and we filled in the rest, which is really cool. Kay Frida says, watch Murderbot the show. I have been chatting with a bunch of my friends about it, actually. I have not been watching shows lately. I did watch all of season 2 of Arcane to do my interviews, which I posted yesterday. I was able to sit down with the lead animator and the showrunner, executive producer, and the writer of the series. And God damn it, they didn't tell me much. And I tried to get shit out of them, and they were locked down tight.
Why didn't you want to do the math, Maude?
Because half a second of animation taking a day and episodes being roughly 42 minutes long, it made my brain hurt.
42 minutes, 60 seconds in a minute.
Stop it!
So 120 times 42.
Kay Frito said, I will not. No, I'm not fucking doing math like that. I'll pull out my calculator.
It was a great line. You're just like, I won't. Forget it.
You do the math. No. I will not. Phantom Aria says, Andor was so good. I believe you. I'm hearing really great things, and I will get to it. I can't stress this enough. My brain currently needs junk food. And that junk food is coming in the shape and form of Zodiac Academy, which is vampires and dragons and princesses and... Robin, where are you? I know you're reading them too. And an academy and superpowers and elemental manipulation and sassy times. And that's what this brain needs right now. Dumb shit. Andor's too smart, and I want to appreciate it, and I cannot. There's sexy time in Andor. We'll start with that. Lead with that. Andor sounds like they're still making up their mind about if they're going to do it or not, you know? Thank you, academic. It was a bit of a stretch. I feel like I'm like testing out my routine, and I was like, okay, I won't do that. Thank you, KP Dubs, for providing the visual element of my joke. Andor will have your heart rate going way too quick. I'm not sure if anyone remembers, but a couple of years ago, I had really bad allergic reaction to medication where my heart resting was like 130 plus beats per minute. Guess what? It's back. And I'm not even on the medication, so that's fun. It's just a race.
Did the math for you, Maude.
Oh, fuck off. Sorry. I said that was just to the answer, not to you doing it. 1,260 days, which is three and a bit years. 4-ish years. And that's not counting all the work that gets thrown. Yeah, when I asked the animator, I'm like, what's next? And he's like, please, nothing for a while. I was like, dude, and I didn't know how to say this in front of Riot because, you know, they obviously hired this studio to do their IP. This animation studio could take on whatever they want next. And I was setting that up for Red Rising. That's literally where I was going. I was like, what IP would you want to tackle next? And the fact that he nearly burst into tears said it all. But I was like, they're going to be beating down the door at that studio because the animation's so good. Hey, let's get back to Thrawn. We've got some more questions. That's the questions just to me feel boring. Like, what role does loyalty play in the novel? Pretty important when there's okay, yes, KP Dubs. Actually, academic, you've had your hand up for a while too, but KP Dubs, this is your question, and then academic, I do want to hear from you.
No, let academic go. You've had your hand up for a while. Go for it.
A while, yeah.
Sure. So yeah, I just wanted to touch we'll touch on this before we leave it.
Oh, yes.
I think it was.
Sorry, that's
Yeah.
my bad.
No
I'm
worries, no worries.
I'm
I'm
moving
patient.
on.
I'm a patient guy.
Too
Don't worry about it.
patient.
Don't worry about it.
Yell at me. I yell at everyone else. Oh, excuse me.
So I just want to marry together all of the thoughts that we were having here. One specifically about Thrawn's aptitude. Is that a word? Aptitude when it comes to politics. Aptitude.
Mhm.
Aptitude when it comes to politics. And it feels like, one, I agree with Avery when they say that it should be the case that Thrawn should be good at politics, considering all of the skill sets that we're told that he has. And I also agree with Vaden that it doesn't make sense for the people around him to think that he is so inept at handling political situations, because everything that we've seen of him has been handled with aplomb, with this one minor incident on this other planet that he was able to smooth over as soon as he figured out the rest of the situation. So like, this is where I feel like Timothy, I'm hoping that Timothy is setting up the situation where Thrawn is playing everybody, right? That he is actually has high aptitude for political situations, and he has convinced the Ascendancy into thinking that he is a politically inept individual, and he's able to weave this political aptitude to taking things in the way that he wanted to go. And ultimately, I feel like Thrawn is going to be the baddie of this entire series.
I'd love for that
It's
to
my
happen.
theory.
Mm.
Yeah,
That's why
so
that actually doubles down and backs up my need for Thalia to be a spy. Because when you have, like, as a reader, this feeling of sort of like deception and duplicity, from Thalia, where it's like, no, you're supposed to be on Thrawn's side. And then what you realize is that even though he's not, but like, what if Thurfian or Thurfius or whatever his name is, too similar, is the good guy, and Thrawn, and Thrawn is actually not, and Thalia does want to team up with Thurfian because he actually is good, and Thrawn has which makes exact sense why he would want to work for Palpatine.
Yeah, I think Thrawn is the baddie, and that Thurfian is actually the good guy, but he's not painted as the good guy because he's rooting against our main character. And I think what we're seeing is the cautionary tale of this descent into like more fascistic tendencies that Thrawn is doing, right? So yeah, sorry, it's been on my mind for this book series. I'm hoping that's what happened.
Well, let's talk about the Venn diagram of being a politician and being a really good person, because a lot of people would argue that both of those cannot be the same. Now, my uncle was a politician in Australia, and he recognized that change was very, very necessary, and he would have, if it aligned with his morals and integrity, would have gone for the Greens Party, which was the environmental party, where the focus is on climate change and stopping uranium mining and stopping sort of like fossil fuels, and that's the focus. But the problem is, because it's so sort of like, there's a singularity there, it's not covering any of the other big day-to-days. It's one part of it. So he recognized that he would have had to have gone into one of two parties, the major parties, to be able to create and make possible any change at all. And there was sort of like this thing where it's like he had to dance with the devil to try and make this change. I would argue my uncle is a really good man. I would also argue that his big songs in the 80s really resonated with a lot of the blue collar working class, and those that I guess would be a little bit more lax about racism were singing lyrics supporting the Indigenous people of the country, because that's some of the best brainwashing I've ever seen. So he's getting messaging across where, if you actually look at the lyrics, where it's like, the time has come to pay our rent, it's basically saying we're on stolen land. We need to be paying for the land we're building on to the Indigenous people. And so I would argue he's a good man, but he went into politics and then had to be a politician and found out very hard and fast that politics is brutal. I would also argue that in American politics, we've got some of the most despicable people ever. But we also have other politicians who are doing their darndest to try and make a positive change. And to do that, have to suffer through a lot of backlash, a lot of hatred, a lot of issues. It's not an easy thing to do to create big change. All that to say, is Thrawn not a good politician because he's decent? Or does he not understand the subtle forms of manipulation to gain personal advantages? I still argue that if you just place Thrawn and the beautiful correlation of what it's like being on the spectrum and struggling with social understanding, where the cues are not quite there, but he's so switched on to numbers and engineering and all of those things that actually really make sense. He is genius level at. But when it comes to finding nuance in a conversation or recognizing if you're getting manipulated, he's like, I don't get this. I am playing into this person's sort of EQ advantage. It's the difference between book smarts and street smarts. Like, Thrawn can be so book smart, but completely lacking in street smarts, and that's where, you know, he gets one done over on him. Hands have been up for a little while. Tim, I'd love to hear from you. Ken, we were going to answer that question, but we'll put that on beat. And then Jimmy, I'll hear from you before we move on with Ken. No, you're muted. There you go.
Press the mute button. I wanted to comment on something that KP said earlier in the chat, where he says Thrawn can easily judge people as a whole, but cannot judge a single person, and it's a big scale with Thrawn. That is strictly true, but that would also tie into Avery's issue with Thrawn being able to look at art and be able to divine cultures and tactics and things of that nature, and why it doesn't make sense. Is, and this is maybe a human bias.
It does make sense.
It does, but might be a little bit of a human bias here. But think about the individual artist. No two artists are the same. I mean, there are artists here that have very soft and flowing art, and then there are artists that are very sharp. And even the same artist can have phases where they're like that. Picasso, for example, you know, any cubist artist, you know what I mean? So like Salvador Dali is very harsh and random, whereas, you know, other artists are very soft and their palettes are, you know, softer colors and more pastels and things of that nature. So like the fact that he's able to look at a single sculpture and be like, this is what that culture is, it's an interesting thing, but it doesn't necessarily jive with reality.
No, but it does support KP Dubs' theory of he can easily judge a people as a whole, but not an individual person. So
it seems to me that if he's looking at art, he's judging an individual person. He's judging the artist, not the culture that created the art.
I thought he
because
could
the artists
extrapolate
in
from
one culture are so vastly different.
That's a really interesting point, because I would have gained from that his understanding the people. So extrapolating what's happening in the art, he's learning of the culture, which is an umbrella, these people, the people, as a whole. Not necessarily of the artist, which then provides an individual bias into that story. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like, it just seems that inside a single culture, art is vastly different from one person to that. Because even reading this book, none of us see the book the same way.
That's true.
So,
but what's interesting is...
And we would all write it differently too.
But in historical studies, because finally my ancient history comes in here, you look at a vase, right? This vase has depictions of a story, whether it's a minotaur or it's like lore or legend or whatever it is. We're not going, oh, I really like how the artist took risk with the vase spout. We haven't seen another artist do that. It was so unique and individual. It's going, wow, this artist is telling a story of the culture. We are learning about is it Theseus and the Minotaur? Like, we're learning about a legend, and if this is a legend, then this is the legend that's being shared to the culture. So everyone kind of gets the gist of what the story is depicting. The story on the vase is more important than the artist's rendition of said story. Does that make sense? So when you study art through to learn of culture, you are learning about the people, not the artist.
Yeah. When it comes to ancient history, I would agree with you, but also we're not studying a single vase. We're studying many vases.
Vases.
I would counter by saying that a piece of art that a society considers to be a masterpiece, that is sort of universally loved by many, many, many people, if you study that piece of art, you'll get a better picture of a majority of that people.
I would counter that with Vivaldi and Beethoven. Two vastly different masterpieces.
Of the same era?
But that's also...
Yeah, the same era and the same style of music, vastly different. Beethoven's Fifth is very abrupt, and Vivaldi's Seasons, the summer, is very soft.
So does that tell you more about the artist and what they're going through individually?
I think it tells you more about the art. Absolutely tells you more about the artist than the culture that created the art.
Or it tells you that there is a divide in culture. There are definitely multiple thought processes going on with that people. As a tactician, you would need to be ready for everything because you don't know what they're going to do.
Avery, I like that one.
This is what I'm saying is the fact that he looks at art and paintings from a specific artist and can divine the cultural tact.
Oh, bugger. I tried to turn my camera on. That was silly.
It doesn't really jive. It's cool. It's a cool idea, and I love Thrawn as a character. I agree that he's a bit flat. I think somebody said that in chat. He's a bit of a flat character, but he's interesting. The art thing is kind of, one of those things we're just supposed to accept, even though it's not really great.
Why put it in there if it doesn't quite click? Yeah. Avery, I like your other art example using impressionists.
Avery.
No, I want you to sound smart. I want you to own this because this is brilliant. And I want everyone to witness and bask in your brilliance.
So, Claude Monet and Vincent van Gogh are both they're both impressionists, but if you look at their art, they're very different, and they were both going through completely different things. And even though it's the same art style, I wouldn't even you can look at a Monet and a Van Gogh next to each other, and you wouldn't have the same takeaway about humanity from looking at those, because you can tell, we know that Van Gogh was severely depressed, had anxiety.
Did he have schizophrenia?
All kinds of
No.
I don't know.
No, he had mercury poisoning from licking lead pigments and stealing ink to paint with.
Goodness me.
He had lead poisoning.
Yeah, but we know that he was going through a lot of mental health issues, and if you didn't know that, you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell that from looking at his work. But there are hints, if you know what to look for. Monet's paintings are peaceful.
They're good from far and far from good. Mm-hmm.
And you can see kind of the struggles in Van Gogh's work. And so if somebody was coming in and they knew nothing about humanity, and they walk into a museum and they look at a Monet piece and a Van Gogh piece, that's not going to give them a good understanding of, all of humanity, because they're going to get two completely different ideas from looking at those two paintings next to each other.
And Jeff disagrees. Says that there are definite parallels.
Jeff disagrees.
You're right. Look, Monet has a lot more a peaceful, blissful kind of more presence with it. Spectating flowers, looking at flowers, whereas Van Gogh or Gough, depending on where you're from, has bigger brushstrokes. He painted fast. There's a freneticism behind his artwork a lot of the time. I think it goes into deeper, darker thoughts for sure, and you get that from it. But I love this conversation because I think that this is a big part of the book. This is what's hit over the head time and time again. And we're kind of on the same page that it's not quite flawless in its execution. Monet isn't peaceful. What is Monet to you? This is why I would never want to be an artist. I think I told you about this, where it's like, what was Jane Eyre trying to say? Or what was, Charlotte Bronte trying to say? I don't know. Ask her. Oh, you can't. Like, I'm not going to write a 3-page study on what she meant when she...
There's actually a famous quote about that.
What is it?
I think it's Picasso. He painted he's got a painting called Guernica, and it's about a town in Spain that was bombed by the Nazis. And there's a lot of imagery in it, and he was constantly asked, what does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? And he said, it's not up to me to decide what it means. If it were, it'd have been better for me to just write it down.
But that's what Pierce was saying with Lilith and Lilith. He's like, there's different accents, there's different dialects, there's different, oh, come on, camera. There's no wrong way to say it. Some people would say Lilith, some people would say Lilith. And
he basically, it's not up to the artist to define the art. Otherwise, you might as well have just written it down in so many words.
See, it's your painting. You get to tell people what it was. Because I would be so annoyed if I drew something and someone was like, I don't know, manufactured some horse shit. We believe Maude is enabling the fascist regime. Like, no.
How do you think Timothy Zahn feels? Sitting there picking apart his book.
Touche.
Looking for meaning.
We should get Timothy. All I'm hearing is that we need to get Timothy Zahn on the show.
Get Timothy Zahn on, 100%.
That's all that means. Because my argument is, why don't we just ask them? So we'll get Timothy on the show. All right, Timbo, it's happening. Hi, Tim. We read all 3 books. My first question: what happened?
It's a big. What does it mean?
What happened in your books? I got the KPWs. You had your hand up. Was that to ask a question, or the one that I quickly brought up about loyalty?
I was ready to. You were about to start asking questions from the doc, so I just had a question I was going to pose.
Yeah, let's go. What's the time? We're good. Let's go.
A force. Let's discuss that. So we start to see Cherie will turn and look at the door a second or two before people walk in. Mm-hmm. She can feel things. She can see things. And then Thrawn actually attempts to use that later on when he gets her to sort of nudge their little spacecraft off course when he blasts it out of space with the lasers and needs perfect timing to do that. I'm just curious what other people think of like how they're using the Force in this series.
I like that question. Who's tackling it? Well, okay, I will say that when we look at Chiss as a species, it is so far removed from the stories like the Skywalkers from what we've originally seen. I don't think that there are Chiss in the Jedi Academy. I don't think that the Chiss have a thorough understanding of Jedi at this particular time. We know that Anakin Skywalker in the timeline is currently in the Jedi Academy studying. I think he's a God, what are they called again? Not an apprentice, Padawan. One up from a Padawan.
He's a knight. Well, he's a Jedi Knight right now. Knight, right?
Right.
He's a Jedi Knight right now. Yeah. He's on mission.
Yeah. So, well, Padawans can still go on missions with their master.
He's on mission by himself, right?
Not typically solo though.
Yeah. He was on a solo mission.
Doing a lot of shit soloed with Padme.
He was the chosen one or some shit.
That's why I like the Clone Wars, because it actually shows you why these two people like each other. It actually shows that they have substance in their relationship. Right?
Never mind the fact that she was like 15 years older than him.
Yeah, we don't talk about that, all right?
What's wrong with that?
Yeah, it's only wrong when it's the other way around, right?
Yeah.
Just kidding. Can I say about the Force use thing?
When he said, "You an angel," he was 9 and she was 15. That's 6 years.
Was she 15?
Yeah, she was only like 15.
Older.
Nah, she was like 15.
Yeah. So when she was 18, he was 12.
Don't say that, because I've dated a guy 6 years younger.
It's different depending on what age you were and what age they were.
Right.
He was
6 years isn't a big deal when you're 30. It is a big deal when you're 18.
He was.
But Maude hasn't reached 30.
No, that's true. That's true.
That's true. Good point.
How can she
Can I
be
just?
both?
I do want to say on the force use thing, I felt like from the beginning it was only a matter of time that it got used like that. Like it had to happen, right?
Yeah.
Like I haven't gotten to that point in the book yet, but I was like, I knew from the first book, I was like, it's really only a matter of time before she is forced to do some kind of Jedi adjacent force trick.
Do we know what percentage of the population have a relationship with the Force? Whether it's an understanding or they're sensitive, or like, are we talking 0.0000? Because it's a
very small number, because
Yeah.
they're barely using them even in their fleet. Like not every ship has a Skywalker aboard.
Yeah.
They have to like sort of ration them out. So it's
Not
a
only
very
that,
small number.
they're able to keep the secret of the Skywalkers under wraps. Like it's just politicos and like certain members of the fleet, like high-ranking members of the fleet that even know. So like it's hard to keep that sort of like great, huge thing a secret across so many people. So it's got to be a small number.
Which is kind of why
Also-
it's refreshing when there's a Star Wars story and there's just no Force. Because
There's
like,
also a reference. It was sort of a throwaway reference in the first book, but Thrawn mentions when he was 3, his 5-year-old sister was taken away, and he's never seen her since.
oh,
Mhm.
interesting.
We
5's too
probably
old.
think she's a Skywalker.
Oh,
she's gotta be trained.
got it. Yeah, okay. Okay. Oh, that is interesting. What's a fun question? What are your thoughts on the antagonist Jixtus and the concept of manipulation from the shadows? I feel like it's what we've seen time and time again, and it doesn't present as unique. Literally,
Yeah,
it's
that's
got
kind of old hat.
Yeah, it's the shadowy hood figure.
It's a Star Wars staple, all right? We know what to expect.
100%.
If it ain't
It's
broke.
old. To put it in the Star Wars universe, it's old black cloak.
Here we go. So several characters
Nice.
outside of Thrawn have key points of view chapters, like Lakinda and Thalius, etc. How do these perspectives shape your understanding of the Ascendancy and Thrawn itself? I think we kind of argued that there was a little bit more of a disconnect because it's characters talking about Thrawn, not living in Thrawn's brain. But I've opened up the question, who wants it? Different points of views. How did it help our perspective? I want to see inside Thrawn's head, says Avery. Yeah, so do I. I think we're due for that.
Since nobody else is talking, obviously the Chiss as a people have strong family ties, and yet like people of lower families are often adopted into like more prestigious families as a way to like better themselves, to get themselves up by their bootstraps. And if the family finds somebody with great talent, they'll pull them up thinking that they can bring honor to the family. So it's funny how like, yes, there's strong family values, but these merit adoptives are constantly being like adopted, stolen between families.
Yeah. They're assets, not people. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like a weird dichotomy where like, yes, it's all about the family, but is it really? And then once you're in the military, there's less focus on that. And once you reach high level, like admiral and above, you're expected to drop your family name completely. And just you just serve the Ascendancy as a whole, and that's it. So it's a little bit weird and interesting, but I do
why
like
why the effort and power struggle and power dynamic, only to once you've succeeded, it doesn't matter. The theme of greater good is central to the novel. How do different characters define it? And do any of them contradict each other in their interpretation? The greater good. I think Scoob said something about greater good earlier. It's the name of the book. The greater good. I'm telling you, these questions.
Also, like, this, I was confused by the general titles. Like, the titles don't seem to really have much. Like, I don't feel like the titles are really like Chaos Rising and then Now Greater Good. Like, they aren't really that relevant to what's actually happening in the book. They just seem like just titles that seem cool as names. Like,
hold on, KP Dubs, how would you defend the Greater Good title with this particular book?
Well, I think it's about what we talked about, how Thrawn is skirting their directive of not attacking first, because in his belief, the greater good of the Chiss Ascendency is to see these attacks coming and be ready for them and possibly snuff them out before they actually harm any Chiss at all. And they don't like that. So that's why I'm wondering the next book, Lesser Evil, is he going to go full Thrawn and just start attacking everybody? And I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see.
well, it's strange though, because like Thrawn is so not present in this book at all. Like, so it's like it's strange that they would name that, basically the title after what he's doing, is if he's so like absent in general. But I don't know. Like at first, like also Space Rising or Chaos Rising, which is I guess supposed to represent space, doesn't make sense to me as a name either. It's just like these names just
the chaos is the
space, right?
Yeah. The area.
But that's just like how. What does that mean? Like
Chaos
Space
is the
Rising
name for the space around the Chiss Ascendancy. They just call it the chaos. I think the Chaos Rising is supposed to be an alliteration towards the things going on out there within the Carden and all of that rising to be a threat. That's what that's from. I that's what I got out of it. I can see where you're coming from, but that was what I put together when it was like Chaos Rising. It's supposed to be more of the rising of things happening in the chaos.
Also, greater good and lesser evil are almost the same thing.
Well, they're closely tied together.
The greater good is the lesser evil, right? If you can make a decision that will serve the greater good, then that is the lesser evil. They're both, in a way, excusing behavior and justifying the ends of the means. Is Thrawn, okay, here we go. Is Thrawn relatable as a character?
Not at all.
Not at all.
No, because he's too flawless. He's painted in a light where he's too flawless. He's made one mistake in 9 books at this point.
I mean, I can relate to that.
Of course you can.
I've never made a mistake in my life. Yeah, it's just not a tangible connection. I'm not like, oh, Thrawn, we're learning together. Okay, Snores says the greater good does not equal the lesser evil. No,
I'm with Jeff on that.
All right,
I don't think it. I think they're tied together, but I don't think they're necessarily the same.
I think they kind of go. I think they go hand in hand. Jeff, if you may and can type out a paragraph about it, I'd love to learn more. Jeff's the thing about Jeff makes a statement and provides zero evidence to support. He'll be like, disagree, and you're like, why? That's all. That's all you get. Just note that I disagree.
It's hard to provide context from a bar.
The greater good can be a big, big evil, says K. Frito. Okay, that makes sense. The greater good could be a big, big, big evil. No, because the greater good.
Everyone defines the greater good differently. There are people who thought Donald Trump was for the greater good, and then he completely dismantled the economy in less than 3 months.
Avery says, like I said last week, he's Sherlock Holmes, or like Sherlock Holmes. Everyone just kind of trusts him to come up with the right answer. We're not really shown any evidence against it. Whereas in Sherlock Holmes, you do get a really fun look inside Sherlock's brain of how he is deducing his evidence and coming to this conclusion. And it's a brilliant, fascinating look at how his brain works. We're not privy to how Thrawn's brain works. It just is. Like, it's all... This is the problem with like only using sort of logic. It lacks the emotional connection behind it. It's just you're presenting sort of like factual things. I needed to outrace them, therefore I did A, B, C. And you're not like, I felt the pressure of my entire ship looking to me to solve this, and I'm really struggling under this level of pressure. one wrong move and I could be Where's the emotional connection that we have? Thrawn bot, says Jay Buntrock. Hi, James. KB Dub says, question, what do we think of the way Thrawn leads his immediate crew? K Fredo just says, Captain, my captain. Who wants to take that question? I like it. What do we think of the way that Thrawn leads his immediate crew?
I mean, I like it personally. He's very much like, hey, you do what you have to do to get the job done, and if you have to break the rules or piss people off, that's fine with me. Like Dahlia's constantly tries to like apologize for her behavior for like doing things.
He's like, own
initiative.
It. Yeah,
it's like, yeah, it's cool. You did a good job. I like it. Good job.
But like, Thrawn almost trusts her before she even trusts herself.
Yeah, he believes in his people a lot. Like Dahlia, he believes into Shiri. He believes in his people, like Ailani, like all these people that he trusts, that he thinks are good people, and he puts a lot of faith in me, and he trusts. I mean, I think he's as good as leader in that respect. So
I mean, I think that's the most vital thing about leadership. It's you're leading by example, so you're never asking anyone to do something that you haven't already done or will continue to do. And I think he proves himself by demonstrating aptitude time and time again, but he also believes in the people around him and makes them see the best of themselves, which makes them work better and smarter, and everyone grows together. That's what leadership is. I saw a visual aid of what a leader is and what a boss is, and it's like a cart with stones in it being pulled, and it's like a boss is sitting on it telling the workers to pull him in the cart, and a leader is making everyone get out and pull it together. And I just thought, oh, that was really cool. All right, here we go. Snores has shown up, come to the table for the argument. Greater good focuses on maximizing positive outcomes when there are many options that are good. Lesser evil focuses on doing the least harm when all the options are negative. I get that. I actually think, from my understanding of how people use the greater good, is that they're justifying the shit things and horrible things that they have to do to benefit, whether it's the people that they love, a greater community, whatever it is. It's justifying the bad things that they have to do to try to provide a positive outcome. The psychological and moral perspectives are vastly different. When you're looking at the lesser evil, I do understand that, like, I agree with what you're saying with where one of them is like the positive outlook of like, we are looking to have the best outcome, and the lesser evil is the least worst outcome. But I think the greater good is used more in justifying bad behavior to achieve a greater outcome for a bigger population, for a greater community. I mean, the reason why we say the greater good is from Hot Fuzz, great movie, and they are a secret cult in this small town that have been killing people, and they're justifying their deaths because they didn't like traits of these individuals, and they thought that it was bringing down the overall stature and demeanor of their town. So they're justifying murder to create a peaceful outlook. I guess I'm looking at this from a bigger philosophical perspective. The differences between the greater good and the lesser evil. Yeah, you know what? If you're sitting it on a scale, it does feel like it does that for sure. And you're not excitedly making decisions on the lesser evil. Ooh, which one is the lesser evil? Okay, yay. It's not a victory per se. Yeah, okay. Hey, I like that. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. That's usually what the greater good is supposed to be. And the lesser evil, I think, can just be justified with one simple word: situation. You're in a bit of a shitty situation and you just have to figure out the least shitty one. There you go. Vaden, your hand is up.
Yeah, I think what I started saying is like, so like there's a ethical philosophy called like a utilitarianism, where it's like basically your idea is you're supposed to maximize happiness of most people possible. Right. So that's where a lot of some of these people get some ideas from like the greater good. Essentially, do what's best for everyone. Yeah. Whether it harms people or not, because it only helps more people than it harms, and it does the most that like you can help in terms of help people. Then it's good enough. But the lesser evil is more like would be like it's
Minimizing
more
damage.
passive. It's more passive. It's more passive and more like, hey, don't take like, because with the greater good thing, you can take extreme actions to get extreme results, but less evil, you're taking usually less extreme actions, more passive ones, just to like to minimize damage done. But
yeah,
I mean,
I think lesser evil is minimizing damage, and greater good is maximizing outcome.
Yeah, it's a tough, because you could argue it uses as kind of both, but as I see what he means.
Yes, more of a yeah. I think my argument is that, especially in pop fiction right now, you look at Thanos, you look at sort of like the argument of the villain, and I always think it's an interesting argument where they're not wrong. They believe it's the greater good. And that's this gray nuance between it. Like, villainy used to be very, very black and white. Like, they were evil. There were evil actions done by an evil person. Whereas what I think is really interesting with villainy now is either they think they're the hero of their own story, or they truly believe their actions, even though it might harm some people, it is necessary for the bigger picture. Utilitarianism versus harm reduction is what you're talking about. Yeah,
like
it is
like basically like villains tend to be, like you said, they tend to have good intentions or good causes, but they end up taking extreme actions that people that they may even possibly end up being the greater good. But the question is, of course, is who gives them authority? And usually they have no authority. They're just gonna like take the authority and say, "Oh, I get the authority to do this. I can kill whoever I want to get this end result that I think is good." And the end result may or may not work out, but people will resist them regardless, because they have no authority. They have no they're not given the consent to say, "Hey, you can do this." They're just doing it for themselves, and they're doing it regardless without anyone's but everyone's making a choice. And that's important. If you don't get a choice in the matter, then it doesn't matter how good someone's intentions are.
And you want a leader that is able to make decisions very fast that minimize damage and maximize outcome. And that can't be for personal gain. It has to be to lift. Rising tides lifts, all the ships. And I think that's where it stops being gray and starts being a little bit more, black and white. And that is, that horrible moral compass question of, would you...
Try problem.
Well, it's like, would you sacrifice one person that you love to save 100 others that you don't know? And it's like, well, your personal gain is you don't want the person that you love to die. So are you okay sacrificing 100 other people who also have families, who are also people, to save that one person that you love? And this is the hard part about leadership, where you have to, this is why Thrawn is amazing. You have to remove all emotion from that decision. Your personal ties can't matter when, on paper, saving 100 is so much better than saving one. The trolley problem. Yeah,
and it does come up to some degree in the book. Like in this book specifically,
that makes
he asked Thrawn. I think Thrawn literally asks some people in his team to fire on their family. Like they say, "Hey, you have to fire your family. This is part of the thing. We have to do this." And they're like, "We don't want to do that." But I'm like, "Well, unfortunately, you're gonna have to get this to happen. So are you okay with that?" And they have to struggle with that. So it's that part's a good part of the book that I enjoyed. That ethical dilemma.
Just to expand on that, I love that part because he had family members firing on their own ships, but remember, their goal was to not damage those ships. Make it look good, but hit them in sensitive spots, but only damaging gold plating, not actually hurting people.
But when you're not able to communicate intent, it looks like you are firing on people that you love, and they are seeing it as I'm being attacked by people that I love. Yeah.
Well, no. The people being attacked have no idea that their own family is attacking them. Right. To any outsider looking, they just see a battle. Right. But Thrawn knows that to sell this, it's got to look good. He doesn't want casualties. He doesn't want a civil war. So he's like, Zodlak family, you're firing at the Zodlak ships. make it look good, do not hurt anybody. And he does that with all the different families.
Minimizes
So again,
damage.
I thought that was
Well
really
done.
important that they did it that way. Yeah.
Toast Post says, are the Chiss authoritarians like the Empire? Are these books watching Thrawn's values lining up with the Empire? Something's got to. It's got to. We know where it ends. I think we're figuring out how it gets there, surely. Do you currently see Thrawn as a good guy? I kind of.
This is what I was alluding to before.
Where does everyone sit?
Yeah, I mean, he seems like a good enemy so far. I mean, based on what he's done and what actions he's taken, even though he's reckless at times, and like sometimes we're not sure why he deserves his authority to do certain things. Like he seems like from what I could tell, as someone who hasn't known much about him before this series, he seems like a good guy to me. Like based on his leadership and based on what actions he's taken.
I would want to be on his ship. I would want him commanding me for sure. I would want him as my leader. He would earn my loyalty without fail. That's a really interesting thing.
I do not think Thrawn himself has any concept of good or evil. He's like, I am a Chiss.
Good outcome or not good outcome. Yeah.
I have a duty. I like to solve puzzles. This job lets me do that. That's what I'm going to do. And I think that's why when he goes to the Empire, he's like, oh, well, it's just another place I can do my job.
Yeah.
He doesn't care. He doesn't see it that way.
Yeah, he's good at his job. Phantom Aria says even his officers who don't like him still respect him. K. Frito said, yeah, I would survive with him. J. Bunt Rock says, have I missed any good Thrawn puns? Just that I said that there's a reason why Thrawn rhymes with yawn. But after KP Dubs' donation, I don't mean it. I don't mean it. Avery says at this point, and from the perspectives we've seen so far, yes, he seems to have the best interests of his people at heart. KP Dub says, we've thrown a few around here, actually. Thrown my back, sitting in this chair. That's time. The homework for everyone. We've got one last book, Lesser Evil. So we're going to learn firsthand what the difference between greater good and lesser evil truly is. We're meeting same time next week. You've got 1 week to read this book or listen to it. Hopefully I'll get better notes. I actually do think I'm going to read a summary and then listen to the book so that I can... I know, it makes no sense, but I think I will learn more doing that. I suggest reading it. I know, how's this? I had a Kindle and I paid for Kindle Unlimited for like 4 or 5 months. I didn't read a single book on my Kindle. I didn't get one free book from that. I'm just not a Kindle girly and I can't do physical books anymore. I have to multitask. I've got to do 2 things at once these days. Actually, that's a lie. I've just listened. I spent like a week in bed listening with my eye mask on. Just listening. J. Bant Rock wants everyone to know that Dungeon Crawler Carl is on Kindle Unlimited. And I would argue, listen to it. Buy the credits, listen to it. Darren says no. Lisa's emphatically saying yes. Listen to the books. Your credits are no good here, says KP Dubs. His mother.
The best part about Ken not liking audiobooks is like he's the one who does all the soundboard stuff for DCC all the time. He loves their audio.
Right? What's that? Oh, Terry, have you already finished it? Is that what I'm seeing? How far through are you?
7 hours left.
Oh, wow, you had really good.
Oh, that's it?
You got really ahead for the second book. What happened in the third? Uh-oh. Did you hit a slump?
No, machine broke down at work.
Oh, you've been working too hard. That's not fun. We're gonna chat about it in the after show. Members Plus, we get to hang out. Usually it's before. This time I was getting ready for the show because I was doing tech testing, which worked, so yay. But I'm gonna go hang out with everyone after this. If you want to join Members Plus, patreon.com/Maude's Book Club. There's a bunch of perks you can cash in there. There is also a community game on tier where we play some video games. And what's really cool is that not this weekend, but next Friday, Vaden is going to run a Dungeon Crawler Carl one-shot in a level world that Matt Zinneman built and that I set up. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I actually have to build my character. Yay.
Yeah. What is the goal still?
Don't forget to kill. What if I were a Kuatin that got tripped a wire or something and got stuck in the game as a contestant? That could be
if you want to.
No, I would just spend the whole time panicking. But that's the fun thing about role playing.
Or
Anything's
you would
possible.
know how to bend the rules.
Oh, new achievement, says Toaster Poster. Yeah, I would just want to hack the system and get insights into everything. Fun.
The AI.
There's a lot of fun things happening though, which will be good. And the Discord has all the info when you need it. Exactly. And I usually let the members plus know all of the news as it breaks pertaining to getting guests, etc. Okay, all. We should probably raid. Who is on at the moment? I feel like I've already raided it too. You know what? He's a pup. This is what I'm fading, isn't it? I'm just trying to think who I'm going to raid. This guy is a part of the Alienware Hive. And he's also a comedian and he's streaming. So run, JD, run. It's JD with a spoon. I have a bad feeling about this. Also, shout out to Alienware. Thank you so much for my new PC. We got new specs, which I'm super excited about. Let me read them out for you while I got you all here. It is Alienware Aurora, Intel Core U9, NVIDIA RTX 5070, 2 terabytes on my SSD, and 32 gigabytes of RAM. Very, very excited. Alien who? Alienware? Couldn't do it without the support. The only reason why I stream at all is because of Alienware. Alienware. Oh, this one's pretty, isn't it? Look at that. Oh, and I especially requested a keyboard that has good clicky clacky, and this is what they sent me. So, yay! Let's go raid JD. Bye.